Welcome to The Explainer. Every single day, millions of us trust restaurants with our health. We just casually order off a menu, rarely ever thinking about the massive data and compliance engines running in the background to keep us safe. But there is an entire global system dedicated strictly to this invisible safety net. Today, we're unpacking the standardized corporate blueprint behind how restaurants rigorously track, quantify, and officially report foodborne disease outbreaks. So think about it. When a restaurant meal makes you sick, how is that actually officially tracked? Because the reputational damage from a food safety issue goes way beyond just one person having a bad night out. We are talking about severe, long-term financial consequences for the global restaurant industry. A single bad batch of ingredients can literally wipe millions off of a company's market cap and completely destroy public trust overnight. Modern restaurant brands manage massive supply chains, so a contaminated head of lettuce in one state can cause a ripple effect across a whole country. How do these massive entities quantify and report it when things go disastrously wrong? Well, here's our roadmap to finding out. We're going to cover the threat to food safety, defining what a disease outbreak actually is, tracking confirmed outbreaks, triggering public health investigations, and finally, transparency and corrective actions. Kicking things off with part 1, the threat to food safety, and what actually makes us sick. Getting sick basically boils down to one of these 4 specific threats contaminating our food supply. Whether it's a disease-causing microbe like salmonella, a pathogen like a really virulent strain of E. coli, a poisonous chemical like a heavy-duty sanitizer left on a prep counter, or a naturally occurring toxin from a spoiled ingredient, these are your culprits. And since the modern restaurant industry relies on a massive, highly interconnected global network of suppliers, intercepting these threats before they hit your plate is an immense operational challenge. They spend millions just making sure a microbial hitchhiker doesn't make it from a farm thousands of miles away into your salad. Moving to part 2, defining a disease outbreak. Because in this world, the numbers really matter. So, what exactly is a formal outbreak? Well, the crucial point here is that it typically takes at least 2 linked cases within a limited time window to trigger that official outbreak designation. It's not just a single customer leaving a bad online review about an upset stomach. If 2 independent people eat the contaminated food from the exact same restaurant and get sick from the exact same organism, a critical switch flips. The incident goes from an isolated complaint to a categorized foodborne disease outbreak. This 2-person rule is the fundamental baseline for everything that follows in the corporate reporting world. But there is one major exception to this rule, and that's botulism. The standards are incredibly strict when it comes to this specific illness. Because of its extreme severity, it's a powerful neurotoxin with a frighteningly high fatality rate. Just one single case of botulism is officially classified as an outbreak. It completely bypasses that 2-person rule. The risk of others getting seriously ill is just so high that the entire system goes into red alert over just one confirmed patient. All right, part 3, tracking confirmed outbreaks and how they validate all this data. How does an incident go from a restaurant's internal panic to a formal external designation? Well, an outbreak only reaches confirmed status once public health officials actually arrive on the scene. The local health department steps in, investigates the kitchens, runs the complex lab tests, and definitively validates that the illnesses are a genuine foodborne outbreak. Only after this external validation does the event become a hard, undeniable data point that the corporation absolutely must track. For corporate investors, this tracking data is formalized through the SASB standards. Specifically, metric FBR 250A3 legally mandates that restaurant entities publicly report the total number of these confirmed outbreaks. And what's absolutely crucial here is that this applies to both corporately owned restaurants and independent franchises. A parent company cannot hide a food safety disaster behind their franchise model. If their brand is on the building, that confirmed outbreak goes right on their permanent corporate record. Which brings us to part 4, triggering public health investigations. This is the escalation phase. You see, not all confirmed outbreaks are treated equally. Things get incredibly serious if an outbreak involves a massive number of people falling ill at once, if the illness is unusually severe, leading to hospitalizations, or if the contamination crosses state lines, hitting multiple areas simultaneously. If any of that happens, it triggers a formal escalation. This isn't just a local health inspector dropping by anymore. We're talking about major regulatory intervention from high-level federal public health authorities. Because those escalations are so severe, restaurants are strictly required to calculate and publicly disclose a very specific mathematical metric.
They literally have to take the number of outbreaks that triggered a major public health authority investigation and divide it by their total number of confirmed outbreaks. So if a fast food chain has 10 confirmed outbreaks in a year, but 2 of them were severe enough to trigger massive federal investigations, that yields a 20% escalation rate. For market analysts, that percentage is a huge deal. It cleanly separates a localized one-off kitchen mistake from a massive systemic corporate supply chain failure.
Finally, Part 5, Transparency and Corrective Actions. Let's look at how they report the fallout.
Once the dust settles on a major public health investigation, corporations can't just quietly sweep it under the rug. True transparency forces a full public accounting. They have to officially disclose the root cause, like exactly how did that pathogen get in. They have to report the financial hit they took to fix the issue. They must explicitly outline the corrective actions they took, whether that's firing a supplier or completely overhauling their prep protocols. And most soberingly, they have to report any significant outcomes, which includes detailing formal lawsuits or, tragically, any consumer fatalities. It leaves us with this final, really provocative question. Is your favorite restaurant serving up transparency alongside their meals? As consumers, we rarely see this complex corporate machinery. We just sit down, order, and expect a safe experience. But we rely entirely on these rigorous reporting standards to ensure our safety every time we dine out. They force massive corporations to care and to precisely quantify their mistakes. So next time you look at a menu, you might just find yourself wondering, what does this restaurant's actual verified food safety data look like behind the scenes? Thanks for joining me to unpack the anatomy of an outbreak, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.